Tonight we're starting a clock. It begins at 0, somewhere over the Taiwan Strait, with a routine flight that suddenly isn't routine and a shipping lane that looks open until it isn't. There's no declaration, no dramatic announcement, just notices to airmen, warnings to mariners, and a ring of patrols that tighten 1 mile at a time. That is how modern blockades begin. They don't slam a door, they close it quietly, then hold it shut with pressure, presence, and ambiguity. The goal is to make every ship captain and airline dispatcher ask the same question: can we still move, or will we be the first incident that turns a test into a crisis? From minute 1, the world starts checking maps, markets, watch fuel prices, and families half a planet away think about a phone made of chips that mostly come from an island now surrounded by ships. Day 1 opens with authority notices and flight reroutes. Commercial carriers plot arcs that bend around the danger zones, and air traffic control pushes corridors farther offshore. Freighter captains call their insurers and hear premiums that triple in an afternoon. Fishing fleets hug home harbors. Satellite images show lines on the sea where patrol crafts sit. Lights low, radar on, letting their presence rewrite the rules without a shot. On land, people in Taipei go to work under a sky that hums a little louder. On the mainland, the drumbeat is calm and relentless. Routine exercises, coastal closures. Nothing to see, but there is everything to see for anyone who understands what a ring looks like when it's drawn slow. Ports inside the island begin staging containers and tugboats as if a storm is coming. It just doesn't have a name. By day 2, the information fog deepens. Videos appear that show aircraft banking low over a gray horizon, but geolocation is argued in the comments, and the clip could be from last year. Tracking sites show a container ship pause mid-route, then mark itself awaiting orders. Ground stations pick up bursts of GPS interference that push civilian receivers a few hundred feet off reality. That's enough to turn a safe landing into a missed approach. Enough to make a tug captain think twice before threading a narrow channel. Cyber units on both sides watch for probes and pings. The first wave is reconnaissance, dressed as nuisance spam floods, login tests, small outages that feel like coincidence. Meanwhile, commodity desks in New York and London start running scenarios. This isn't simply a regional story. It's a semiconductor story, a shipping story, a logistics story. When you build the world's supply lines as a just-in-time symphony, any instrument out of tune changes the whole song. Day 3 is when the ring begins to show teeth. Maritime interdiction is still safety inspection, but the delay turns from hours to days as documents are scrutinized and whole numbers photographed from bow to stern. A freighter bound for the island pulls away. A second ship is ordered to drift in a box, engines idling, crew on rotation. Patrol aircraft fly patterns that shave international lines and leave contrails as signatures of intent. Airspace pressure grows. Civil flights that used to cross 40 minutes of sky now add 90 minutes of detours, and the cost of a seat climbs accordingly. Satellite phones on bridges and in cockpits ring more often. Insurance underwriters quietly add clauses no shipper likes to see. On social media, noise blooms, rumors of mines, rumors of collisions, rumors of defectors. Most of it is false. All of it serves a purpose, and certainty itself is a form of control. By day 4, the economic shock spreads in circles. A tech firm in Texas tells buyers a shipment of critical components is delayed indefinitely. A factory in Malaysia slows a line because a bin of custom chips will not arrive next Tuesday, and nothing else fits the socket. A big box retailer approves emergency substitutions for electronics. Nobody wanted to switch, but shelves don't care about pride. They care about inventory. Freight markets shuffle capacity toward longer routes, moving ships like chess pieces through insurance zones that changed while you slept. The price of bunker fuel nudges upward. Airlines add surcharges to long-haul tickets. Stock tickers blink green and red like warning lights. None of this is collapse. It's drag, and drag is what blockades are built to create. Day 5 is decision day for navies. Escorts are a ladder. At the bottom, communication and presence. In the middle, shadowing and illumination. At the top, physical challenges and the risk of collision. A limited escort means positioning a gray hull inside radio range of a civilian ship and making every query and inspection transparent to the world. The message is simple. The next incident will unfold on camera, and there will be witnesses who saw who ordered what. That is deterrence by disclosure. It can also be escalation by spotlight, because bright light raises pride on every bridge. Back channel lines light up between capitals that don't acknowledge each other in public. Allies ask the same question. The island asks its own military every hour. If a vessel is arrested, what do we do next? Comply, contest, or compel? Day 6 is the day accidents start to hunt for victims, not because crews are sloppy, but because the sea is crowded, the air is busy, and attention is a finite resource. A warning shot lands too near a bow, and a helmsman jerks a wheel a degree too far. A helicopter pilot hovers a moment too long over a white wake and salt fog coats a sensor. A carrier battle group takes a turn not for drama, but because a destroyer 3 miles abeam needs room. None of this is cinematic, all of it is dangerous. In parallel, a silent front grows louder. Cyber pressure on logistics software, port scheduling systems, and carriers' billing tools. You don't need to hit a crane to stop a port. You can freeze a database that tells a crane where to go. That's how a digital strike becomes a physical queue of trucks on a road where nothing seems broken except time. Day 7 is when the world asks, what is the new normal and how long can we live inside it? If the ring holds, flights and ships will reroute as if the island moved on the map. If the ring tightens, a test of will becomes a test of law. Interdiction is not a word that ends with a press release. It ends with a choice. Does a navy push a line back with a hull, or does it wait for the line to move on its own? That's the cliff edge, because the moment a grey hole touches another grey hole, or a rotor wash shoves a small craft askew, the tape of the week becomes the argument for the month. And beyond the strait, another ocean watches. Attention is the most valuable resource in geopolitics. If the United States and its allies spend it all here, a different actor somewhere else takes notes about windows that open when others are busy closing doors. Now pull back and look at the United States through this lens. The question isn't whether Americans see fighter jets, it's whether they see numbers. Numbers at the gas pump, numbers on airfare, numbers on a checkout screen for a laptop or a phone, numbers on a utility bill if shipping routes force fuel markets to play defense for weeks. When a chip fabrication schedule slips, you don't notice at noon. You notice when an entire product here vanishes or costs more, because an alternative can T-match the yield or the node. That's not a headline. That's a shopping cart. Meanwhile, power users of cloud services see odd delays because a data center throttled traffic to keep redundancy intact. While a submarine cable got a little too interesting for comfort, the average person does not read cable status reports. They read try again. There's another layer. Markets don't wait for proof, they price risk. If investors think a blockade has a 1 in 3 chance of lasting into next quarter, they'll move capital as if it already has. That means volatility. That means headlines about flight to safety. That means rate chatter that looks technical but feels personal when it changes mortgage math or credit card interest. Households that already learn to live with inflation will feel the lesson again. Small businesses that make tight margin goods dependent on imported components will stress test their own supply chains in real time. The question isn't whether the economy breaks, it's whether it bends enough to make people angry while it holds. What about the military dimension for the US specifically? The first change is tempo. Units already deployed in the Western Pacific extend tours. Ships slated for maintenance stay a little longer on station because timing matters more than schedules. Air refueling tracks get busier. Maritime patrol aircraft log more hours. Cyber teams rotate to high alert and sleep less than is healthy. Logistics commands comb inventories for spare parts that don't get headlines, but keep jets and ships alive. Bearings, seals, consumables, adhesives. Software licenses that live inside mission systems nobody brags about. At home, guard and reserve formations get warning orders that don't promise deployments, but do ask for readiness today, not next month. Families take a deep breath. Employers find backups. Communities remember how to support kids who wave at FaceTime screens instead of front doors. Does any of this mean war is inevitable? No. It means friction is inevitable in a blockade, and friction makes spark. There are off-ramps if the ring was a test of resolve, and the answer was, we see you. Both sides can step back without saying the words, step back. Maritime. Traffic can resume under new lanes that save face. Air corridors can drift toward their old shapes with a few notches carved out as reminders. A hotline can ring behind the scenes and tell the truth for a minute. No one wants to find out how many days it takes for an accident to turn into a funeral. The economy loves off-ramps. Markets relax in seconds. Surcharges get trimmed. News cycles look for a new storm. But off-ramps don't appear by luck. They appear because posture didn't turn into pride, because cameras deterred more than they provoked, because leaders remembered that humiliation is the cheapest accelerant in the world. and there are on-ramps we would rather not take. A collision, a shoot-down, a missile that launches because a crew read a radar returned the wrong way at the wrong second, a cyberattack that crosses an unspoken line and forces a public response. If any of those happen, the conversation changes. It's no longer about shipping lanes and flight corridors. It's about credibility and compellence. The United States would not debate whether it's involved. It would debate how Escort enforce or break the ring. Sanctions, surgical or total. Cyber punishment, quiet or loud. Allies would line up. Not perfectly, but enough to matter. And the clock that started 7 days ago would not stop at midnight. It would reset with a new label. Phase 2. For households, the most practical move is the least dramatic one. Plan to be bored while prepared. A couple weeks of essentials, so you don't chase crowds if a price spikes or a grid hiccups. A little cash so a card outage doesn't cancel a meal. Backups for light and information so a router reboot doesn't feel like the end of the world. Medication plans that don't rely on perfect shipping schedules, contacts printed somewhere that isn't a dead phone. None of this changes grand strategy. It changes how much of your day gets eaten by a problem you can shrink with an hour of effort tonight. For citizens, the second most practical move is understanding the story beats before they play. A blockade isn't a movie. It's a series of boring decisions interrupted by sudden ones. The boring decisions keep the sudden ones from ruining the week. If you know that, you're harder to scare, and people who profit from panic prefer easy audiences. Demand clarity from leaders. Reward restraint. Expect confidence without chest thumping. The more a society is psychologically ready for friction, the less a crisis can sell it chaos. So here's the bottom line. A 7-day blockade around Taiwan is not science fiction. It's a play with a published script of space pressure, maritime inspection, cyber fog, market stress, political signaling. Whether it stays a play or becomes the first act of something worse depends on choices that start before day one. Building redundancy into supply chains, practicing transparency that deters keeping back channels warm, and teaching the public that preparation is not panic, it's competence. Distance won't protect America from a crisis like this. Speed will. Speed of information. Speed of decision. Speed of logistics. Speed of calm. If this helped you see the timeline more clearly, subscribe to Red Alert Zone and turn on notifications. In the next briefing, we map the signals that show whether a blockade is winding down or gearing up for a test far riskier than a ring of ships. Stay informed, stay prepared, stay steady. There's one more layer to this 7-day map that we need to talk about, the choke points behind the scenes. A Taiwan blockade is not just ships and jets. It's photolithography machines, specialty gases, ultra-pure chemicals, and software that controls a million quiet steps. Most people know the island makes advanced chips. Fewer know that the equipment to make those chips is concentrated in a handful of firms spread across the Netherlands, Japan, and the United States, and that the people certified to run and maintain that equipment number in the thousands, not the millions. In a sustained crisis, even one missed maintenance cycle or one delayed spare module becomes a bottleneck that ripples across products. You never connect to semiconductors, cars, appliances, medical devices, industrial controls. The supply chain is not a chain, it's lace. Tug one thread, and the pattern changes in places you didn't expect to see moved. On the water, geography narrows choices even before politics does. The Boshi Channel south of Taiwan, the Miyako Strait to the northeast, and the Luzon and Taiwan Straits form gates that carriers and cargoes must pass. A blockade doesn't have to seal every gate. It only has to make each gate risky enough that insurers say no and captains comply. Add in undersea cables, fiber lines that carry the world's financial traffic, and you get a picture that isn't about explosions. It's about latency and reliability. If a handful of cables are cut or jammed, financial systems reroute. They can reroute for a while. They cannot reroute forever without friction people feel as delays and errors. That is why modern crises begin with maps and end with minutes. For the United States, there are tools you don't see until they're needed. The Civil Reserve Air Fleet gives Washington access to commercial airliners for military transport. Maritime programs can subsidize U.S. flag shipping for emergency sea. The Defense Production Act can prioritize contracts for components that suddenly matter more than they did last week. None of these tools solve a blockade. They buy time, they create options, and they signal seriousness to allies and adversaries. But every tool has a cost measured in disruption somewhere else. If airliners move cargo instead of people, routes get thinner and prices change. If factories shift lines for priority goods, other goods slip. Readiness is not magic. It's trade-offs you make before the bill arrives. Allies face their own math. Japan, Australia, South Korea, and the Philippines each have different thresholds for risk, different political calendars, and different public tempers. Coordinating among them is not weakness, it's the work. A well-managed coalition spreads the burden and narrows the openings for miscalculation. A poorly managed one invites testing, because seams are where pressure finds a way in. That is why clear roles matter: who escorts, who surveils, who backfills logistics, who keeps cyber shields up at home while the headlines point overseas. Deterrence is a division of labor as much as it is a display of hardware. Let's talk about miscalculation again, because it's the bridge between a tense week and a bad month. In crowded air and sea lanes, the difference between a professional intercept and a dangerous one is often measured in seconds and yards. Pilots and captains train for that margin. Algorithms don't always respect it. As more autonomous systems join the mix, drones above and drones below, the chance of a machine making a human problem grows. If a robot boat nudges a line or a loitering munition misidentifies a wake, the video will hit feeds before the investigators hit the deck. The fastest force in a crisis is not a missile, it's leaders who ignore that lose control of the narrative. Leaders who follow it too closely lose control of the mission. What can American households do that's proportionate and sane? Think in layers, not in stockpiles. A layer for payment, some cash for card-out days. A layer for light and information, power bank, flashlight, radio, spare cords, so a grid hiccup is an inconvenience, not a crisis. A layer for medication and essentials refills planned a few days earlier than usual, so logistics drift in dictate health. A layer for time tasks that can withstand an extra week without a delivery. None of this requires fear, and none of it asks you to live differently for the next decade. It asks you to be hard to disturb for the next 2 weeks. If a faraway map redraws your calendar, there's also a civic layer. Communities that speak clearly to themselves ride out uncertainty better than communities that outsource calm to an algorithm. If there's a local alert system, make sure your household is on it. If your area runs emergency drills, know what they mean and what they don't. If your workplace has a continuity plan, download it now, not when the network is busy. The more boring steps you take when the sky is clear, the fewer dramatic steps you need when the horizon turns red. That's not prepping, that's professionalism at the neighborhood scale. And finally, perspective. A blockade is a pressure campaign, not a prophecy. It's designed to coerce without a shot, to tire out the world, and to make people accept new lines as if they were always there. It can succeed if the target is isolated and if the rest of the world decides inconvenience is the same as inevitability. It can fail if the target is supplied, if the ring is watched, if backchannels keep tempers from doing what tempers do best. The United States cannot guarantee the outcome alone, but it can change the odds by moving quickly, speaking plainly, and treating citizens as partners instead of spectators. So the clock keeps ticking. Day 8 might look like day 2, or it might look like a different chapter with steeper stakes. Either way, information beats speculation, preparation beats panic, and patience beats provocation. If this 7-day map helped you see where the pressure points aren't, where the off-ramps live, share it. The more people who understand the beats, the fewer people who dance to the wrong song when the volume rises. Subscribe to Red Alert Zone and turn on notifications. In the next briefing, we trace the exact signals that show when a blockade is winding down, and the very different signals that mean it's turning into something else. Stay informed, stay prepared, stay steady.